So I don't know, and you'll have to correct me if this was like your kind of description of yourself or someone else's, but quote, you are a producer whose work strives to hold up a mirror, inviting us to grow from what we see. So I thought that was super poignant, especially in our times. But then also it reminded me when I was researching this for the podcast, it reminded me of two other quotes that I found one from the poet Mary Oliver. So quote, I don't ask for the sights in front of me to change, only the depth of my seeing. And then
Oh,
but then on the opposite side, I guess you could say if it was only, back and forth of two extremes, is the author of The Jungle, Upton Sinclair. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on him not understanding it. So I just wanted to
mm-hmm.
maybe work, let's riff on that tension a little bit of inviting us to grow from what we see by holding up a mirror. I think that's super important, that goes into the reflexivity that we had just talked about with STS. But like, how do you see yourself as a producer, and as a person trying to make change or impact, or do you at all? And then kind of riff on those kind of things.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So that is the mirror is kind of the organizing principle that I use to understand and cohere my work. And maybe it's almost I would almost say it's 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 maybe more of a window that is very clean, so you can both see yourself and see forward and see
Uh-huh.
through.
Okay.
Um, I did actually at one point, also something I haven't really talked about publicly, send a mirror to someone. Not the best idea. Although he was a little he was a friend, but we were kind of in something. But it was a double-sided mirror, and so I kind of joke. And I
Ah.
wrote on the side that was less magnified. So if
Mm-hmm.
anything, the more magnified side was pointing at me, saying, "You're the kind of person who just sends someone a mirror. What's up with that?"
Wow.
And I got the message. But as far as how it connects to yeah, I mean that's what I've learned over the course. So I produced a show for about 5 years called Reckonings that
Yep.
told the stories of how people change in all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of ways. People who expand their political worldviews, people who transcend violent extremism, recovery from addiction, all kinds of transformation. And so the common thread, and I went in with this question: how do people change?
Yeah.
How do people change in fundamental ways? I started kind of trying to research it online, but I didn't even really know what search term to Google. It's like, am I Googling worldview transformation? Is that even a thing? Like
Mm-hmm.
behavioral
Mm-hmm.
economics is out there, but I'm not looking to find out what makes people floss their teeth more often.
Yeah. Nudges
So this and
abound. Yeah. Nudges everywhere.
nudges abound, but how do we fundamentally transform? And so and I
Yeah.
and so yeah, this the show certainly wasn't a scientific investigation, but I probably did over 200 hours or so of interviews with people who've made all kinds of change, and what I learned was that I had this kind of running list of things that I thought radically transformed people. So it's like falling
Mm-hmm.
in love, near death experience, psychedelics, sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes information, and very rarely because we usually only trust information that confirms what we already believe, per your Upton
Sure.
Sinclair quote. um, and yeah, what I found was that what those things do, it's not that those things make us change. What those things do, or what those things have in common, is that they reveal to us the difference between who we think we are and who we actually are,
Mm. Okay.
or the difference between the impact we think we're having on the world and the impact we're actually having on the world. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing that gap, that is what initiates the process of transformation. And I can give examples, but that's kind of where the mirror, it's like, I don't have to persuade, I don't have to like convince you or cajole you, or kind of like, it's like I can hold up a mirror, and granted, there are all kinds of mirrors and there are all kinds of ways of holding them.
Mm-hmm.
I can shove it in your face, I can send it to you in the mail, I can hold it up gently and give you room to just process it.
Right. Right.
There's fun house mirrors, there's not. So there's all kinds of, I mean, we can go down a whole rabbit hole in terms of that, but just the, you know, I was holding up a gentle mirror within the context of the show. I'm just asking you open-ended questions and just
Hmm.
letting you, and some of these interviews were hours, and some of these people hadn't, I mean, if you're a former white supremacist, you've probably gone through therapy about that. You've
Right.
probably talked about that. But some of the people I talked to, you know, the architect of Facebook's business model, who then realized he was addicted to his phone and has since devoted his life to tackling technology addiction. He didn't like go through therapy
Right.
about building Facebook's business model. So he's kind of processing this in real time with me in a quote unquote interview. You know, it's called an interview, but it's really just kind of an opportunity to take a look in the mirror and just process
Yeah.
whatever is being seen. And so that is kind of the theory of change, let's say, that I came to, that I didn't have to like change people. I could just kind of create the conditions conducive to critical self-reflection and trust. And I'm not going to say that that's going to work in all circumstances, but it's a powerful tool. It
Yeah.
can work in many circumstances. And it's worth saying, maybe as a last note, that most, or if not all, and I haven't like researched this, but I think most wisdom traditions have that incorporated, right? Like there is a day or there is a time, you know, in Judaism, it's Yom Kippur. It's a whole day that is
Right.
devoted to reckoning,
Hmm. Hmm.
that is devoted to critical self-reflection, we could say. And so that is kind of like a part of spiritual development or human development.
That's very well
I
put.
just happened to do it within the context of an interview.